The Bell Witch. In the autumn of 1817, the Bell family lived on a prosperous farm along the Red River in what is now Adams, Tennessee. The family was headed by John Bell, a respected farmer who had moved to the area years earlier from North Carolina. By all accounts, the Bells were ordinary people. They were active in their church, known throughout the community, and lived the kind of quiet, rural life common to the Tennessee frontier. Then, according to numerous accounts preserved by neighbors, family members, and later historians, strange things began to happen. The first reports were relatively minor. Members of the Bell family claimed they heard unexplained noises around the property at night. At first, it sounded like rats chewing on bedposts. Then it sounded like chains dragging across the floor. Sometimes there were scratching noises on the walls, but other nights there were knocks on doors and windows. John Bell reportedly investigated repeatedly, but he found nothing. The disturbances gradually intensified. The family began hearing sounds that resembled dogs fighting outside the house. On some occasions, they claimed to hear birds flapping their wings against the walls. At other times, they heard heavy footsteps moving through rooms that appeared to be empty. As the weeks passed, the Bell family became increasingly frightened. The most troubling incident centered on John Bell's youngest daughter, Betsy. According to family accounts, Betsy began experiencing physical encounters with whatever was causing the disturbances. She claimed her hair was pulled while she slept. Her blankets were yanked from her bed during the night, and sometimes she reported being slapped or pinched by an unseen force. The family initially tried to keep the events secret. In rural Tennessee during the early 19th century, stories of spirits and supernatural encounters were often viewed with skepticism. John Bell feared becoming a source of ridicule. For a time, only immediate family members knew what was happening. Eventually, however, the disturbances became impossible to hide. One of the first outsiders to witness unusual events was James Johnston, a local minister and close friend of the Bell family. After hearing rumors, Johnston spent the night at the Bell home. According to his later account, he experienced unexplained sounds and disturbances similar to those described by the family. After Johnston shared his experience, word spread rapidly throughout the region. Soon neighbors began visiting the Bell farm to witness the strange occurrences for themselves. What happened next transformed the Bell family's private ordeal into one of the most famous ghost stories in American history. According to numerous witnesses, the entity haunting the Bell home eventually began speaking. At first, the voice was faint and difficult to understand. Witnesses described hearing whispers or muttered words coming from unseen locations. But over time, the voice reportedly became clearer and more articulate. Eventually, it was said to converse freely with visitors. The voice appeared to possess detailed knowledge of local people and events. Witnesses claimed it could repeat conversations that had occurred miles away. Sometimes sang hymns or engaged visitors in lengthy discussions. But most remarkably, the voice identified itself. It became known as Kate. Exactly why the spirit adopted that name remains unclear. Some accounts suggest it referred to itself as Kate. Other versions claim neighbors began calling it that and the name simply stuck. Regardless of the origin, Kate became the name associated with the entity for the remainder of the story. As reports spread, increasing numbers of visitors traveled to the Bell farm. Some came out of curiosity, others came hoping to expose a fraud. Still others came seeking evidence of the supernatural. According to the stories, many left convinced they had witnessed something they could not explain. One recurring theme in historical accounts is that the entity seemed to harbor a particular dislike for John Bell. While the other family members experienced disturbances, John allegedly became the primary target. Witnesses claim he was subjected to physical attacks, including slaps and blows from unseen sources. He reportedly suffered increasing health problems during the years of the haunting. The spirit frequently insulted him in front of visitors and seemed determined to make his life miserable. At the same time, the entity appeared unusually protective of Betsy Bell. This strange combination, hostility towards John and affection toward Betsy, became one of the most discussed aspects of the legend. As the story grew, explanations began to emerge. One of the most famous involved a neighbor named Kate Batts. Batts was a real person who lived near the Bell family. According to local tradition, she and John Bell had engaged in a dispute involving a land transaction. Some versions of the story claim Batts believed she had been cheated. When she later became ill, rumors circulated that she had vowed revenge against John Bell. Over time, many people began linking Kate Batts to the spirit called Kate. In some versions of the legend, the entity was literally the ghost of Kate Batts. In others, it was a supernatural force acting on her behalf. Historians, however, note that much of this connection emerged years after the events themselves, and it is difficult to verify. As with many legends, separating fact from folklore is challenging. One of the most famous episodes allegedly occurred in 1819 when future President Andrew Jackson visited the Bell farm. According to the story, Jackson had heard reports of the haunting and decided to investigate personally. As he and his companions approached the Bell property by wagon, the vehicle supposedly became stuck despite favorable conditions. After repeated attempts to move it failed, a voice allegedly announced that the wagon could proceed and that everyone would meet again that evening. That night, according to the legend, members of Jackson's party experienced frightening disturbances, including physical attacks and unexplained phenomena. The following morning, Jackson supposedly declared he would rather fight the British again than spend another night with the Bell Witch. The story remains one of the most famous parts of the Bell Witch legend. However, historians have never found contemporary evidence confirming Jackson's visit, and many scholars believe the tale developed later through local folklore. Still, it remains deeply embedded in the tradition. By 1820, John Bell's health had deteriorated significantly. Accounts differ regarding the exact nature of his illness. Some describe episodes of paralysis, others mention difficulty speaking and swallowing. According to family members, the mysterious entity repeatedly predicted that John Bell would die. In December 1820, he did. The circumstances surrounding his death became the most chilling chapter of the entire story. According to the legend, family members discovered a small vial containing an unknown liquid near Bell's medicine cabinet after his death. When questioned, the spirit allegedly claimed responsibility. Some versions state that the liquid was tested on a cat, which afterwards died. The entity reportedly boasted that it had poisoned John Bell. No reliable evidence exists to support these claims. Nevertheless, the story became central to the Bell Witch legend and helped cement its haunting reputation as one of the most sinister hauntings in American history.